Hello everybody and welcome to another Weather Wednesday. My name is Elias here at the Space Foundation Discovery Center using science on a sphere to look at Christmas lights from space. But before we do, I have a quick quiz for you. Do you remember what we talked about last week? That's right. If you said phases of the moon, you are correct. So we were looking at phases of the moon. And if you recall, it takes just about 28 days, a little over 28 days, for the moon to go through a full cycle of their phases. And so that means that when we were talking about phases of the moon, we were in the first quarter of the moon phase. And now, if you go outside tonight, you'll see a full moon. It took an entire week to go through one quarter of the moon's phases. So, just a little trivia thing for you. I hope that you go outside and look at the moon tonight and see a full moon happening this evening. Now, so the question that we posed for you guys was, can you see Christmas lights from space? And it turns out that you can, but you can't. You see, it depends on the satellite that you're using. And if you want to see individual houses, you will use a satellite that Google Maps or Google Earth uses, something that a company called Digital Globe might use. These satellites, they orbit only in the daytime, though. So they have the capability of seeing individual houses, even individual cars from space. That's pretty amazing. But they don't fly over your house at night because they would have a hard time getting enough light to see individual houses at night. So these satellites can't see your house at night when you would have your Christmas lights on. There are, however, some satellites that can see the Earth as an entire city and look at the Earth at night, one of which is called the Suomi Npp Satellite. That's kind of a funny name, but the NASA was using this satellite in conjunction with other countries to study the brightness of cities. And as you can see on the sphere behind me here, this is not an image of stars. These are actually cities around the world. I'm going to pause this here for a minute and point out a couple features. For one, here is a bright line down the northeast part of Africa here. So here's the continent of Africa. What is that bright line? That is actually the Nile River. And people have a tendency to live near bodies of water or methods of transportation. So you can see on this map here that around the outside edge of the Mediterranean Sea, there are a lot of cities representing a lot of people around the Mediterranean Sea. You can start to pick out large cities, areas of high density population based on the brightness of the cities. Here is India, which is kind of interesting. Why doesn't India keep going up here? Why don't the city lights keep going? Well, this right here, this line would be the Himalayan mountains. And then to the north of that, the Mongolian desert. As you continue on, you can see some really fun features of entire cities. So the satellites that see the brightness of cities at night focus only on entire cities, not individual houses. So as I take a look at Christmas lights, so here's a typical picture. Here's a typical picture of a house. I wish I could say that this is my house, but we have a lot of decorations around neighborhoods, and we have houses that might be full of Christmas lights. Does it look like that? No, it doesn't. You can't see individual houses. If you were an astronaut orbiting around the Earth, that would not be correct. So this is one of those pictures that has been digitally enhanced to demonstrate that, yes, it is brighter during Christmas time. here is one of the most fascinating images. So you can see, hopefully you can see that there are two different colors here. You have kind of a yellow color and more of a green color. This image comes from that Suomi Npp Satellite that orbited around and looked at these cities over a period of 3 years. And over that period of 3 years, they noticed that there were some areas of cities that was brighter during between the dates of Thanksgiving and New Year's, up to 20 to 50% brighter. That's quite a bit. That's quite a lot of Christmas lights. So you can see these green areas are areas that are brighter during that period of time than not. And they also found out that the suburban areas, so the suburbs are typically brighter than the urban areas. While some urban areas, that means city areas, can be up to 20% brighter, some suburban areas can be up to 50% brighter. Why? Well, it's probably because they have a bigger yard. They can put more Christmas lights on that. Another interesting fact is, did you know that Christmas is not the only holiday that you can see from space? During the month of Ramadan, there are some cities in the Middle East that can be up to 70% brighter during the month of Ramadan. That's because a lot of people that celebrate Islam, they will, during the month of Ramadan, they will fast during the daytime, and then they will go out and eat at night. So when the sun goes down and they need to turn the lights on, they go out and they celebrate, they eat, and they spend social time with their friends and family. And so during the month of Ramadan, it can be up to 70% brighter in some cities. That's pretty amazing. Let me finish by looking at one of my favorite images, the GOES images. Again, this is our weather satellite. And the amazing thing about the GOES satellites is now we can see clouds both in the day and night. And so this is actually overlapping the visible with some other frequencies, some other channels that can see in the nighttime, like infrared, etc. But if I pause it here, you can see city lights. So it can pick up brightness as well. And while we're seeing these cities here, that kind of reminds me almost like stars. And one question that I see has popped up is, why do stars twinkle at night? And if you were an astronaut out in space, would those same stars be twinkling out in space? The answer is, stars twinkle because of our atmosphere, because of the air moving around in our atmosphere. It causes the light to refract or change or bend a little bit. And so to our eyes here on the earth, the stars twinkle or the brightness changes. Actually, that's kind of the same thing that's happening on satellites that are looking at cities, is they look and see, does the brightness change? So when you're on the earth looking at stars, they twinkle because of our atmosphere. So if you were above our atmosphere, like an astronaut, the stars would not twinkle. They would just be a steady, bright point out in space. So what questions do you have about space? What questions do you have about weather? Send us those questions on Facebook comments or on our Instagram or Twitter. We look forward to hearing from you. My last point is, as I see these bright city lights and as I see the cities brighten up during the holiday season, it kind of reminds me of maybe this is something that Santa uses as he's delivering his presents on Christmas Eve. If you want to find out where Santa is on Christmas Eve, don't forget to try Norad Tracks Santa. NORAD Track Santa will be here at the Discovery Center on Saturday, December 21st, and they can tell you how they use space to track where Santa is on Christmas Eve. Sounds interesting, huh? Post some comments or questions that you might have, and we look forward to answering those next time on our Weather Wednesday. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next week.